Hello and welcome to Rogue Artisans and Crafters, two-time winner of the Southern Oregon Television Awards for Best Arts and Culture Show. I'm your host, David Glamour Dave Nienow. We welcome you, our viewer, to our season of 2019 shows where we feature local artists and craftspeople here in Southern Oregon, and we talk to our featured artists about how they came to their art, what drives them as artists, find out stories behind their art process, and how their work as artists influences their lives. Today we explore the art of glass as a medium and have the privilege of featuring local glass artist Lacey Walton. I discovered Lacey when I made a visit to the Ashland Art Gallery, Walton Art House, soon after their gallery had opened. I originally talked to Lacey's husband and was beyond impressed at the unique glass art that Lacey creates and which is showcased at their gallery. And so today I am pleased to talk to Lacey about her life as an artist and the work that she pursues today with her glass art. And so we welcome Lacey to the show. Welcome, Lacey.
Thank you so much.
So, Lacey, I ask the same question at the start of each of my shows with each artist, and that is, how long have you been working as a professional artist, and what attracted you to the art that you do today?
I've been working as a glass artist for 15 years now, and I originally got into this medium through family.
Okay.
I actually come from a family background. My uncle and my stepfather and my brother were all glassblowers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they all started with the pipe movement. They started making glass pipes in the 90s.
Yeah, okay.
And so they had a head shop in California. And so when I was finished with college, I went and moved in with my mom and decided that I wanted to learn how to blow glass.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I got into it, was just going into the family business.
Right, okay. And now, that's something that I discovered that to me it was unique, was that you were creating these really unique glass sculptures that are functional pipes. Yeah. Right. And I've never been one to be much of smoking of anything.
Sure.
But I have been aware of people that do the small scale, inexpensive kinds of glass.
Of course.
Kinds of pipes, right? And when I discovered your work at your gallery, I mean, I was just really blown away by the uniqueness of what you're creating.
Yeah.
And then to discover that they were all basically functional pipes.
Yeah.
And then I saw like the price tags on your work. It was like, and I thought, wow, people are spending that much money for functional pipe art, right? And so the whole idea just like really intrigued me about, what it is that you're doing. And so I'm happy beyond measure to have you on the show to talk about this work that you do. And the thing that strikes me most is just, I mean, you're there. I see in your work kind of like fantasy figure kinds of elements. So what's your inspiration? What kind of inspires you to do these unique glass sculptures the way you do? Because I'm just blown away by them.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I think that as far as like themes and stuff that keep showing up in my work and kind of always have is like sort of feminine empowerment. Yeah. For me, I've always kind of been drawn to the feminine figure and sort of trying to, depict them in ways that are beautiful and powerful, not just like sex objects, but more of just feminine empowerment. Yeah. And so a lot of my stuff comes from not just, the female figure, but also stuff in nature. I do a lot of like flowers, florals, birds, animals. I do stuff like that, a lot of foliage. So just natural things in nature, and the beauty of nature itself is kind of the themes that really speak to me.
Yeah, at your last show last month, there was an aquatic themed piece that you had done that I think it was in collaboration with someone else.
Yes.
That was literally in it like a fish tank.
Yes.
And it was like kind of coral reef kinds of design stuff. And I just looked at it and I thought, wow, that's just like really cool. Because you could see the reality of what the scene that you were creating, and the fact that it was all done in glass.
Yeah.
you know, it was really, I found it really astounding.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, you know, my focus is that, you know, for me, I try and explain this is more than just a pipe. This is more than just something that you can, you know, interact with. It's, you know, it's also a piece of art. It's something that makes you sort of feel emotion, and, you know, you recognize the beauty and the design and the aesthetic of it. And that's kind of what I've been trying to achieve with my work, and also the messaging behind it. So this last year I've been really, you know, the messages behind taking care of Mother Earth and climate change has been very important to me. So that coral piece, for example, me and my collaborator, we made half of that coral piece in all white. And so that was really, you know, for us it was the messaging behind the warming of the oceans and what's going on with the corals, and that's sort of what we wanted to talk about. And yes, it's a functional pipe. You can smoke out of it. But that's almost like, you know, it's part of it, you know. I think it's all together. For me, it's like I could just make just a regular sculpture. I could make something that's non-functional, right? Yeah. But for me, I find it so much more exciting to be able to have some sort of connection with it, some interaction with it that kind of brings it a step beyond just being something to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I look at your work and, you know, I find it amazing, the designs that you craft. And the fact that they're still functional pipes is both something that is unique. It's kind of exciting to know that that's the basis of the design.
Yeah.
But it also, in my mind, almost becomes a secondary thing to the beauty of the art in the design.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And being that I don't smoke, it's like, okay, well, I could if I had the money, I would certainly buy a piece to have in my art collection, and know that that's something that's part of the key element of the creation.
Yeah.
But yet, you know.
But you could still keep it on your mantle and enjoy it and look at it, and, you know, and it doesn't necessarily matter that it's a pipe.
Right.
You know, that's how I feel. These are my personal pieces too, and I just have them on my shelf in my living room. I don't use them, but I just enjoy them. But they're there. You know, if there is a, you know, a ritual or a special occasion, or something comes up that maybe there might be a need for something, that's kind of what my pieces are for. Is people, you know, genuinely don't like just use them and all the time. They're really for sacred, you know, special occasions. And if you think about it, like pipe making as an art form has been around since the beginning of human civilization. In every culture, in ancient, you know, Egypt and China and Greece, and even with the Native Americans, they've all been smoking out of pipes and had pipe making as an art form since the beginning of time. So it's only in the last like 100 years or so that it's become sort of this taboo in association with cannabis.
Right, yes.
And so, you know, there has been this debate in the fine art world versus the pipe world, you know, can pipes be considered fine art based on their association? And
well, I certainly look at your work, and there's no doubt in my mind that it's fine art.
That's kind of, you know, that's kind of my mission. I go to kind of prove that, like, yes, it can be it's a pipe, but it can also be something that moves you. And that's what art is. And my husband even says, you know, it's like, you know, the very fact that it's a pipe in itself makes it controversial. That makes it actually more art than if it was just a sculpture. So.
Now, and certainly the legalization of marijuana in recent years has got to be something that fuels increased development in this arena of the art community.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. There has been, you know, a flood of resources to come into this glassblowing pipe making community because of the legalization and just the acceptance in general in culture and society of it. So it's kind of exploded. You add internet in with that. And it's really, this art form has exploded. I mean, you know, I think that the pipe makers has really taken glass blowing and lamp working in particular as a form of glass blowing. You know, we've innovated, we've invented new tools and new equipment. And, you know, when I first started, there was probably less than 100 colors. Now there's probably almost 1,000 different colors on the market. You know, so the kind of innovations that have happened just with this medium of glass because of the pipe world is pretty astounding. And, you know, and it has a lot to do with just this, there's this whole subculture of collectors and enthusiasts and, store owners and gallery owners that really sort of see this contemporary art movement happening and really wanting to support and invest in it. So,
yeah, well, it's really an exciting thing to see, and I mean, and in my mind, there's no doubt that the quality of your work design is got to be considered leading edge kind of work, and the fact that you're one of the from my understanding, one of the few women at the top end of this arena of art glass has got to be a great thing for you.
Yeah.
And in the very long term, I would hope to advance more women into this art arena.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It is definitely a male-dominated industry. Of course, the females are few and far between. And I will say that there are more females coming up, with getting more access to information.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that there's just as many advantages to being a woman in a male-dominated industry as disadvantages.
Yeah.
It's definitely easier to get noticed, which has been very helpful for my work to stand out because it is a feminine quality to my work, which is rare.
Yeah.
Especially with the high-end work where the pool is very small with the people who actually do very, very high-end work. And so, that's been very helpful. And I also, for me, just understanding sort of my leadership role in this industry, I've tried to encourage other women who are coming up and who are learning to just, not be afraid and go hard, because glass blowing is very difficult. It's very physically intensive. There's a lot of physical labor involved and to make it happen. So
I mean, I've seen in person and in documentaries about glass art in general, the various processes involved, and it can be. It seems like a very intensive kind of a thing.
It is
because you only got certain limited times to deal with the glass when it's hot and to do the things that you've got to do. Right.
It's all timing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in terms of your design process, I mean, we talked a little bit about your inspiration, but like once you get an idea, how do you go? Do you kind of like draw it out in part and then know what you're, do you have, when you get an idea in your mind, do you know like what colors you're going to be dealing with? Do you like kind of draw it out in advance before you start doing your blowing process?
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah. Well, there's, the inspiration comes to me in different ways. Sometimes I'll look at a set of colors and I'll be inspired to make a piece. Sometimes I'll have this, great big idea in my head about this message I want to send, and then that will inspire a piece. But usually when I get it in mind, it's like a vision, like this instant sort of vision of this entire piece comes into my head, and I sketch it out, or I write down the idea, and and I just have like this basic rough outline of sort of this sculpture. And then from there, the next thing I do is pick out my color palette. So I'm really big into color theory. And so in the color palette, like I said, there's like 1,000 colors to choose from. So luckily I have a lot. And I also mix my own colors too, and layer my own colors. So that's the next thing I sort of figure out is, okay, what's the design going to be? What's the color palette going to be? And then the next thing is the function. Okay, what are the physics? How are the bubbles going to move in the airflow and the water? And where's the water going to go? And where's the smoke going to come out of it? The mouthpiece at. I have to figure out all this sort of physics and the engineering of the piece. And that's generally my skeleton. That's generally the canvas that I'm building all the sculpture off of, is actually the hollow functional parts of the piece. So once I have that sort of skeleton figured out, then I can start kind of arranging my sculptural elements on there. And then once I have sort of the main ones, then I add more attachments in a freestyle kind of thing, where I'm forming my pieces onto the sculpture in a freestyle, just kind of filling in space, a negative space. And so now I've gotten to the point where my work is, hundreds of attachments onto this base, where I'm filling in space.
Right.
So yeah.
So now, like the pieces that we have here between us.
Uh-huh.
What's the typical length of time in that process from conception to the finished piece when you say, I'm done? You know, I mean, are we talking days, weeks?
It varies. I mean, you know, sometimes I'll make work that I can make in a 6-hour shift. Sometimes I'll make some small pieces that I can do. Sometimes I will spend 2-3 months on a piece.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
so it varies all over the board.
Right.
And you know, it just really depends on the kind of projects. You know, I'm trying to get into bigger projects over the next couple years too, where I want to spend a year on a piece.
Oh, wow,
where I
yeah.
want to do like a big glass installation somewhere. You know, so it varies. It kind of just depends on the scale and the you know, how elaborate that I want to go.
Right. Well, we have some images of your work that we can bring up. So if the control room can start bringing up those images, we'll talk about some of these various pieces.
Great.
And so we have the images up here on our monitor.
Okay.
So let's just kind of talk about each of these a little bit.
Great.
And so what can you tell us about this?
So this is part of a 4-part series called Elements of a Warrior. So this right here, she is the Earth Warrior.
Okay.
So you can see all the leaves kind of fanning out from behind her. And she is, you know, she's the first, in the body of work is the first pieces that I made after taking a year off from having a baby.
Okay.
And so these were just about, you know, being a warrior and going through your own journey. And I was really attracted to the idea of the 4 elements. So there's fire, air, water, and earth.
All right. So let's go on to the next image, and that's, you know, so now what we got here?
So this one is, her name is Mama Mundi, and she's part of this new tree series that I've been doing in the last year.
Oh, okay.
She is the first pregnant figure that I've made. So she is has her belly there, but the idea behind her was having all of life sort of growing out of this tree, all different kinds of leaves and succulents and flowers, just kind of, you know, basically talking about the center of life, and trees kind of symbolize the roots into the ground and the branches and leaves up into the heavens, up into the sky, and so it kind of has that connection between the earth and the sky.
Okay, all right. Let's go on to the next. And this is another in that sequence.
It's the same one, yep.
Oh, same one, okay.
This is the same piece, just a different view.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was a collaboration with a friend of mine named Emily Marie, who is another female glassblower who does very well. She makes really amazing stuff.
All right.
So yeah.
Okay. Let's go on to the next.
So this is the fire piece. So this was the other part of the elemental series.
Yeah.
So this is the fire warrior.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's go on to the next. And this one here.
This is the water warrior.
Okay.
So she was the first one that I made in the elemental series. And it was actually, you know, I made her first, and then I had a collector come to me and he said, you know, I want this piece, but can you do the 4 elements? Can this be part of a series? I was like, ooh, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yes. So
Yeah,
she was the original one, and she actually, just a little bit of backstory real quick. She actually came to my mind when I was watching the Dakota Access for Pipeline in 2016. I was so moved by the sort of the warriors and the indigenous people and their peaceful protests. I mean, it moved me so much that I really wanted to make a piece of art that honored the peaceful protests and the warriors who are kind of trying to protect our water and our environment. So this is in honor of them and the work that they do.
Oh, great. Okay. And let's go on to the next. And then this one here.
So this is Air.
Air.
Yes, the Air Warrior. You know, and she's pretty interesting because she was actually made during the smoke season here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I thought a lot about the quality of our clean air when I made her. So, yeah, she's a dedication to that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next. And I like this one here.
So this is the Wise Spirit. It's an owl themed piece, and she was a collaboration with a friend of mine. His name is Dan McAfee, and he lives up in Washington. He's an old friend of mine, and he does owls. He does these amazing glass owls with all the feathers are all individual glass feathers, and they're just beautiful. So he and I got together last summer to make this piece. And
very cool.
Something interesting about that one is that all the color, they actually change color. It's called CFL glass. So you have glass that's being produced now that changes color in fluorescent light and daylight.
Yes.
So everything that's pink up there will turn yellow, and everything that's yellow will turn orange.
Oh, wow.
So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. All right. So let's go on to the next. And then this is like another tree piece.
So this piece is recent from this last summer and fall, and she is Summer Despair is her name, and I made her right after last September, right after or during the fire season as it was ending and as I could get back to work, because I can't work with the smoke outside because of my ventilation.
Yeah.
But I was so devastated by the wildfires that were happening here and in Northern California that I had a dream one night, and I had this image in my head of this sort of spirit within this tree trying to get away from the fire, and she just couldn't go anywhere, and I couldn't get this image out of my head. I probably thought about it 1,000 times a day for a few weeks before I was able to get in the studio and actually make it. So yeah, she came out of a dream, and she's probably one of the most emotional and powerful pieces that I've made so far.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And let's go on to the next, and then this is another one in that sequence, it looks like.
So yes, this is the trees series. So I did 5 trees. This was the spring rebirth tree. So she's the last tree I made just a few months ago in the series, and I just had this idea to do this big spring bouquet, and I used a lot of sort of color, my own sort of color palette in this, where I used some color changing glass in there as well, so things will change from orange to yellow, from hot pink to yellow.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really inspired by all the innovative glass that's coming out right now. You have glow in
really
the dark,
exciting,
and
yeah,
it's really cool. I mean, you have glass that glows in the dark. You have glass that goes ultraviolet, under ultraviolet light, so it glows the crazy green colors, and you have color shifting glass. I mean, the innovation in glass nowadays is amazing.
So let's go on to the next, and this one here is...
So this is autumn. So yeah, you should notice this theme is the 4 seasons here. So I did a tree in each season. And so this is autumn is a representation of the fall there, and so she has a variety of colorful wings, and I also use CFL glass for that. So in a fluorescent light, all those yellow leaves that you see, those are all going to turn pink and red.
Wow, cool. Yeah, all right, let's go on to the next. And then this one here, this is
winter.
Winter, yeah.
Winter is probably the most technically challenging piece that I've done. She has the most attachments, and you can see that she's got icicles, a lot of icicles, and her name is Winter Surrender.
Okay.
And so she's kind of laid back, like under the weight of the icicles, and sort of surrendering to that, right? Surrendering to the cold.
Yeah.
And just knowing that it's only for a season.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next. And now this is like a set of your warrior pieces.
So
right?
this is So this is the whole set together of the warrior elements of a warrior series. So you have water, fire, air, and earth.
Right. Okay. And let's go on to the next. Now this is, I saw just like last month. This is was this Light Bearer?
The Light Seeker.
The Light Seeker, yes.
She's on display at our gallery at the Walton Art House. She is made with all UV glass.
Right.
So under a black light, she glows green.
Yeah.
And she was actually part of a performance that I did in Denver, Colorado in 2015, where I did a production. I produced a show with original music and lighting, and we had dancers and costume makers, and we kind of made this whole hour-and-a-half long show about this bird goddess being born from an egg and going through the trials and tribulations of her life, and then growing up into a bird.
Wow, cool.
Spreading
And I think
her
there's
wings.
one more image in that, and yeah, that's just an amazing thing. When I saw it last month, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's just an
She's
amazing
big.
effect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 2 feet across. It's one of the larger pieces that I've ever done, but you can see that they're all individual. All of those feathers are just, they're put onto a metal frame, so they're not welded together. And that was so that I can assemble that piece on stage.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Lacey, it's an amazing talent that you have doing the art glass that you do.
Thank you.
Now, how do people get hold of you if they want to buy your work or commission you for a piece?
So Instagram, Lace Face Glass on Instagram is the best way to kind of follow my work. That's where I publish, you know, all my new work and the writings that go along with it. Generally, I do writings and poetry, sort of short things, that messages that go along with it. And that's where I publish all of my new material. I am currently working on my website. It's up and going, but it just needs to be refreshed this year. So lacefaceglass.com is also another place. If people are interested in my work, there's 2 things. You can either get a hold of me on Instagram through instant messaging if you see anything or would like to ask the availability of anything that's posted on there. It's all generally available. Or you can come into my art gallery. So I have always a standing display of art at the Walton Art House on 800 North Main in Ashland. And we're open every first Friday of the month, and we're open through the weekend. And that's it. So we are working on hiring an employee, and we're going to be open more regular hours here in the next year. But for right now, it's more of an event space. And so we throw different themed shows every first Friday, every month. And so that's a good spot to go in and just kind of see what I have available and see some of my work in person.
All right, great. Well, Lacey, thank you for coming on the show. It's been great to talk to you about your work. And I really, you've got a fan here in what you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. So we've reached the end of our show, Rogue Artisans and Crafters, and we thank you at home for joining us and learning about our featured artist, Lacey Walton. We wish to thank Lacey Walton for agreeing to come on to the show to discuss her life as an artist. And so I'm your host, David Glamour Dave Nienow, and we will see you next time, Road Valley. Thank you for watching Rogue Artisans and Crafters. You can watch this show on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. and Thursday evenings at 11:30 p.m. on Channel 15 in Ashland and via charter cable on Channel 182. You can watch the show on demand at rvtv.sou.edu by searching for Rogue Artisans and Crafters. You can follow our show on Facebook by visiting and liking our show page. Just search for Rogue Artisans and Crafters. You can follow David Glamour Dave Nienow on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search for Glamour Dave. If you like this show and wish to support David Glamour Dave Nienow and his show productions, you can visit his Patreon page at patreon.com/glamourdave to become a patron supporter. We want to thank our crew who have made it possible to put this program together, and to thank RVTV for their wonderful studio facility that allows us to produce shows such as this one. If you'd like to become a studio producer and create your own public access show, you can contact RVTV to learn how by calling 541-552-6898.